All right, let's see if this works this morning. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. Oh dear. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. Oh dear. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. Oh dear. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. Oh dear. I think. All right, it's going to take a little. This works this morning. Oh dear. Y'all bear with me a minute while I figure out why the echo's happening. Oh dear. Y'all bear with me a minute while I figure out why the echo's happening. I believe. Y'all bear with me a minute while I figure out why the echo's happening. It's because of Instagram where we are now. I believe. Y'all bear with me a minute. And I think that should have solved it. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. I'm playing with it a little bit. Instagram has just recently been updated into the Restream architecture, and I'm trying to get us live on there. Let's go ahead and run the intro. Okay, sorry, I let it run out. I am now watching me on Instagram, mostly because I just want to see how it transfers, how it looks on Instagram. So that's a whole new story. Holy shit, Diamond Dave's watching this morning. Good morning, brother. Good morning. So yeah, we're on Instagram now, and if I'm being honest, it kind of looks like crap. Let's see what happens if I can just get the video a little more centered. If I'm being honest, it kind of looks like crap. Let's see what happens if I can just I'm looking over there. Okay, that looks better. That was just my big ass head on Instagram. That'll work. Rod says something about the echo. I think I solved the echo. Y'all let me know in the comments if that is the case. And all right, this is the last show of the year, unless y'all let me know in the comments if that is the case. And all right, this is the. I don't think it's an echo. I think I figured it out. I think I fixed it. So y'all let me know if the echo's fixed. And I'll look for some comments over on Instagram. But if you happen to pick the show up on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitch, we're on a bunch of weird Korean and African and Middle Eastern channels as well. We're on all of those, and yeah, so here we are at 7:36. I think I figured out the problem with the echo. Okay, Rod says it's fixed. Sergeant Major says it's better. Excellent. So thanks for joining me this morning. This is going to be the last show of the year, unless somebody like Alex McDonald or one of those other cats that I've done shows with in the past says they want to do a New Year's special, in which case it won't be the regular time. It'll be, one of those in the middle of the night type of deals. We'll see what happens there. Several of my dearest friends and family bought me good liquor for Christmas, and I will promise you this, because the quantity is just daunting, that I will not be drinking all of it for the New Year's show if we do one. So, that said, it is Friday morning, and there are a couple of news items that I really, 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 really want to talk about, but I'm going to give them a minute. I'm going to put them all off till Monday. But just a little preview, it looks like right now, Maine, Arizona, and California have joined with Colorado in attempting to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. And that's terrifying on a lot of levels. But I want to close the year out on a positive note, and we're going to deal with those stories on Monday. So it's Firearms Friday. Let's see how Firearms Friday does with the article view on Instagram. See if it works out okay. And Instagram just might not be the place for us, but we're there. We're going to see how it works out. And who knows, maybe Instagram will be where everybody goes to just listen to the show. So, our first last DGU of the year. Woman says her partner shot neighbor in self-defense after altercation in U District. This is in Seattle, Washington. Based on that location and this headline, there are some inferences and assumptions that I am willing to make. You've already made them. Let's see if we're right. Diamond Dave says wouldn't be the first New Year's Eve show where we drink all the Christmas whiskey. Yeah, y'all may recall the beginning of last year we did the Cross the Stream show, and dear Lord, shoo buddy, I discovered the Guinness coffee draft that year, and it was effective. Seattle police are investigating a deadly shooting Monday in the University District. Seattle, a man is dead following a shooting at an apartment complex in the University District on Monday evening. It happened around 5 p.m. Police aren't releasing many details at this time, but residents say there was an altercation between two male neighbors prior to the shooting. A woman who didn't want to be identified told Fox 13 that the man who was shot was a neighbor who had threatened and charged at her partner, forcing him to defend himself. Neighbors say it's shocking this happened in a place they consider safe. Okay, the partner thing. The use of the word partner here. I hate it when I hear that word now. They use the word partner. Homosexuals tend to use the word partner as a euphemism for their significant other, for their boyfriend or their girlfriend in a same-sex couple. And what makes it obnoxious is this is one of the things about the left abusing language and misusing language. It's actually important to the story whether these two people are romantic partners or business partners, right? that is a detail which is obfuscated by the use of the word partner as a euphemism in common parlance. And I don't know, in this story, I don't know if we're talking about a same-sex romantic couple, or if we're talking about two people who are engaged in a business endeavor, or maybe they're research partners, something of the sort. But the use of the word partner the word partner should not be used to connote a romantic entanglement, because it confuses issues. And when you're talking about something like this, that is an issue, that is a detail, which could, I don't even know if it is, but absolutely could be relevant to the question of liability, of fault, of motivation, to many of the questions that must be answered when you're talking about an investigation into the conduct of what could be a crime, right? For the most glaringly obvious of which is the motivations between, and the legal remedies for those motivations between romantic coupling and business partners. Those are two very different sets of motivations, right? You don't have the heat of the moment defense if you catch your partner in your law office, the other guy with his name on the door having sex with the secretary in his office, and you're just the other lawyer in the building, right? There may be some concerns about ethics and sexual conduct in the workplace, et cetera, et cetera. Don't shit where you eat, that type of stuff. But you don't have heat of the moment, lost control of my emotional state defenses as the business partner the way you would as a romantic partner. So I hate the use of that word generally now, because it's been corrupted by common parlance sufficiently to almost be a non-discrete term, and that's a problem. But let's see what we have. The place is usually a safe place, and happening here is pretty messed up, said Dr. Kathika Devi, UW. The place is usually a safe place, and happening here is pretty messed up. So she's not a PhD of English. She lives across the street from where the man was killed. Everyone's like, happy holidays, and now it's sad. It's sad to have it happen on Christmas, said Devi. Police say shortly before 5 p.m. a call came in that the man had been shot. Police say he was found dead in the lobby of one of the upper floors. Neighbors tell Fox 13 he was found in an area near the elevators. Police say they were able to identify a suspect rather quickly. It's the dead body. The suspect is currently in custody, said Officer Sean Weissmiller of the Seattle Police. The circumstances are currently under investigation. Weissmiller says detectives are working to piece together the relationship between the suspect and the victim. The resident Fox 13 talked to anonymously told Fox 13 that the man who was shot and killed was a neighbor who had been harassing her family, including her kids, just 4 and 9 years old. And, hey, fair play. That's plenty good reason to get shot in my yard. Around the time the harassment began, there was a fire at her front door, and strange, threatening writing appeared on the walls near her apartment. Okay, now that's starting to sound pretty serious. On Christmas afternoon, she said her partner went to check the mail, and there was an altercation. She says the man hit and charged at her partner, and he defended himself. Meantime, the police aren't confirming that detailed information. They're only saying that they're investigating the relationship. We don't know the relationship between the suspect and the victim. Detectives are interviewing the suspect at this time. The woman who felt threatened by the neighbor said that she had reported the incidents to apartment managers and law enforcement in the past. She said she was also in the process of trying to find somewhere else to move. Well, probably the smartest thing you could do is get the hell out of Seattle or any other city. But you see what I mean? They kept referring to him as partner. They talk about a little bit about the home life situation and the kids. Okay, if he's not her husband, if they're not married, right? This doesn't even appear to be a same-sex couple, right? Say boyfriend. lover, right? Something. Beau. Boo, even. But use a discrete term, a term that has meaning. Partner does not mean lover. Partner does not mean romantic entanglement, and that makes that story confusing. But the other elements of the story seem to suggest that we're talking about a romantic partnership, not a business partnership. Okay. Police, man shot and killed while attempting to rob 2 people in South St. Louis. So, a man who was shot and killed while trying to rob 2 others in South St. Louis Sunday morning, police say. According to St. Louis Metropolitan Police, the shooting took place in the 3500 block of Minnesota Avenue around 3 a.m. 2 men with a firearm approached 2 other people while they were sitting in their car saying it was a robbery. One of the victims grabbed a firearm inside the car and shot one of the suspects. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. The man was later identified as Donta Stone, 34 of Jennings Station Road. That sounds like a DOT right there. If you are engaged in the concurrent conduct of committing an armed robbery and you get shot, I'm not sorry. I'm, in fact, glad to see you go. That works out. It works out for everybody. Everybody. Because let's be real. You're at a place in your world, you're at a place in your life where you have stooped to the conduct of armed robbery. You've made some choices. And they don't look like they're getting any better from here. So, have a nice day. The man was later identified as Donta Stone, 34 of Jennings Station Road. The 2 victims fled in their car and contacted police shortly after the incident. The homicide division responded and assumed the ongoing investigation. Okay, anyone with information. So if you happen to have any investigation, here's the Crime Stoppers number for the, and here's the homicide division, 314-444-5371 and 866-371-TIPS. If you want to give them some information and collect a reward, potentially. Not much to that story, except that we lost a bad guy, and nobody should be sad about that. So, moving on, let's do another one. Police investigate South Seattle home invasions. Homeowner exchanges gunfire with suspects. Ooh, police are investigating a series of home invasions that happened in Seattle's Beacon Hill neighborhood earlier this week. In one incident, a homeowner exchanged gunfire with the suspects. Police are investigating a series of home invasions that happened in Seattle's Beacon Hill neighborhood earlier this week. In one incident, a homeowner exchanged gunfire with the suspects. According to the Seattle Police Department, SPD, no injuries were reported in either of the robberies. Officers responded to a report of a home invasion robbery near the corner of Beacon Avenue South and South Graham Street. Officers spoke to a victim who said he was approached by several men with guns while he was walking home from the casino. He told police the suspects forced him to open the front door of his home while they ransacked the place looking for valuables. Hold on a minute. In one incident, a homeowner exchanged gunfire with the suspects. Okay, so there have been several robberies. There have been several robberies in the area. Looks like it's near a casino. The suspects stole cash and fled the scene. The second incident happened 2 days later at a home near the corner of Beacon and Ferdinand. So still the same general area, right? The first one was at Beacon and Graham. We're still on Beacon Street apparently. Shortly after 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday, officers responded to the location for a report of an attempted home invasion robbery. And I got to give these robbers credit, man. 5:30 in the morning, they getting up and going to work. Police spoke to the homeowner who said 3 men tried to break down his door, but were unsuccessful and fled the scene. SPD says the suspects tried a second time at around 12:25 a.m. the next morning. Authorities say 4 men returned to the house to try breaking the door down with a sledgehammer. Excuse me. The homeowner told the police he was sleeping and woke up to loud banging at the door. Yeah, that, I'd like to say, yeah, that'll do it, but frankly, I have a wife and kids in part because I'm just not going to wake up if you're banging on my door. I can't hear you. But please believe there are a lot of little yappy dogs in this house that will go get the big dog. That's just kind of how we have to do business. Okay, so, and with that, funny thing, the reason that I can't hear you coming is the reason that you don't want to be in a gunfight with me. I pulled a shitload of triggers. So, he armed himself with a rifle, and when the suspects tried to get inside, he shot them. He shot at them. Authorities say the suspects fired back at the homeowner before speeding off in a vehicle. It remains unknown whether the homeowner shot any of the suspects during the incident. Detectives processing the scene say they located bullet damage in the living room and bedroom windows. They say this week's incidents follow a similar pattern to a series of robberies that happened earlier this year, where the victims of the incidents were of Asian descent and the suspects were black men. Now that's interesting. Y'all remember earlier this year there was the whole... God, was that this year or was that the end of last year? Anyway, not too long ago, within the last year, I guess, there was an incident where a guy went to one of those Asian massage parlors and shot it up, and it, when the story came out, it was this whole thing about purity and hating prostitutes and all this stuff because it was one of those, at least in his opinion, or even maybe in his imagination, it was one of those kind of massage parlors, the happy ending sort of thing. And of course, the news ran it as this big race incident. And then we had the hashtag Stop Asian Hate thing trending in this amazing attempt at gaslighting to try and show that, this is just another example of how white people are evil and they're racists and they hate everybody. And then it turned out that there was a lot of anti-Asian, like specifically racial targeting of Asians for violent crimes all over the country, most especially in New York and California. And those stories dropped out of the news real fast because it turned out that what was happening is black men between about 16 and 30, at that gang initiation age range where you make the choice to either go get a real job or join a gang. And somewhere in that age range, all of a sudden we started seeing all these videos coming out, and it was young black men assaulting not just Asians, but primarily elderly Asians. And they would run up and just beat the absolute shit out of, killing several of these, Far Eastern octogenarians. And it turned out, oh, look at that. There was an Asian hate crime pandemic being conducted by black men. And all of a sudden, it just, that whole thing just had to disappear from the headlines because, oh shit, the narrative cannot survive the truth. Jeff and his dog chop wood and play video games asks, do you remember the knockout game? Yeah. And the knockout game was separate from that whole rash of black youth murdering Asian elderly, but it was the same demographic engaged by a wide margin, because there were some white teenagers and some Mexican teenagers and the like as well, but it was primarily young black men. and the knockout game in most of its applicable context was in fact a gang initiation. Like, you go run up and hit that old dude in the back of the head, and you got to knock him out. He's got to fall out, and that's how you get in. I'm gonna do one more, guys. Let's see. 2 shot during attempted carjacking in Chicago's West Side rather. And before I read this one, I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm gonna change the aspect ratio on the article and see how that looks. I want y'all to let me know in the comments over here how it looks like when I do it like this on YouTube and Rumble, and Facebook, etc. Does that just make this video look awful? Because it seems to work for Instagram, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the viewing experience that you guys have for the Instagram platform. I may just have to come up with a different way to present the show on Instagram, or just give it up altogether. Man, woman shot during attempted carjacking on their way to Chicago. An attempted carjacking led to an exchange of gunfire in the West Garfield Park neighborhood Wednesday morning. A man and woman were shot and wounded. As CBS 2's Darius Johnson reported, glass and crime scene tape remained at the scene nearly 12 hours after the chaos unfolded. But that was all. The family of the concealed carry license holder who fired at the would-be carjackers called what happened a miracle, saying 5 rounds potentially saved their lives. Before sunrise, strangers came together in prayer outside West Suburban Medical Center in Oak Park for Jaquita Sims, 40, and her 65-year-old co-worker. This family has been saved from a funeral, saved from a burial, just saved, a man said in the prayer circle. They rejoiced at the fact that Sims and her co-worker are still alive to tell what happened Wednesday morning. Wow, okay, so this is pretty light on details, but if I'm reading it correctly, you got 2 women who were attacked, by a would-be carjacker, and then a third party, the CCL guy, showed up, fired the rounds, saved their lives, and then the news reporter talked to the CCW guy's family, and okay, you know what? Screw you, Chicago, for that story. It's weak sauce. I'm glad there was somebody there to help those girls out. But y'all, your story is ill-conceived and confusing. So, Jeff says it's a little small, wide margins. Yeah, I agree, and I'm just not willing to sacrifice y'all's viewing experience on the other platforms for Instagram. So any of you guys who have just found us on Instagram, I'm going to continue going live on Instagram, and I'll keep the camera centered, kind of like this, for the Instagram show. We'll have to see how we do it differently when Cameron and I are both in studio, or he calls in. I think when Cameron calls in, I can just, nope, that's going to look like shit. So we're not going to do it that way. Anyway, I guess it is what it is. We may just not be an Instagram show. So I'm gonna look at one thing on Instagram real quick. And we may just not. I know the echo's gonna come back for a second. Looks like, yeah. So it's just we're probably just not gonna be an Instagram show. We'll be on there. But if you happen to find us on Instagram, go to Rumble, go to YouTube, go to Facebook, preferably Rumble. I'd really love to see you guys blow it up on Rumble. Like right now, like I got a couple of dozen people watching on the YouTube and Facebook and Twitch side. I've got twice as many people watching on Rumble right now, and I appreciate the hell out of you. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, the follow button, whatever the button is on the platform you're watching now. And we want to grow going into the new year. We want to get bigger and do more and more things with the show. Pit Danny says, yes, Rumble is the way to go. And he says that on YouTube. And I love you for that. So I'm going to do you one more this morning because that last one was kind of bullshit. And if this one's bullshit, then we're just going to be stuck with it. Deadly day on Fort Worth freeways. Man killed in road rage shooting. Truck driver shot in separate incident. Holy shit. The Fort Worth Police Department said no charges have been filed against a shooter involved in a road rage incident that left a man dead on Wednesday morning. So this was 2 days ago. Police responded to the 12,400 block of South Freeway, southbound service road, after reports of a shooting. Hey, Pit Danny says YouTube will be censoring more in 24, and yes, they will. Look for us to be live on Rumble because we're probably going to get thrown off of YouTube every couple of weeks in 24. We'll see how that goes, though. Hey, 24 may be the last year we're on YouTube. We may become a Rumble-only show. We'll see what happens. Police responded. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound to his upper body and another man who reportedly shot the victim. The victim later died at the hospital, so we got a DOT. I'm not going to hit the sounder, though, because I'm still not sure. We're still not sure how it happened. Hours earlier, Fort Worth police say a truck driver was shot in the shoulder while driving along I-30 in West Fort Worth. This is just a part of life. You got to be careful and watch yourself out there on the roads, DJ Byers told NBC 5. Byers warning drivers to stay on their guard. He was at work in South Fort Worth around 6:30 this morning when he saw a confrontation break out among the drivers of two vehicles along I-35 West. It looked like road rage, possibly because the person got out of a truck and walked to the front of the line of cars, and next thing you know, I heard a gunshot, a loud pop, and then I saw someone on the ground. The witness told NBC5 the man who pulled the trigger didn't run from the scene. Whoever shot the guy looked like he was standing there and called police himself, it looked like. Fort Worth police, okay, so that you pulled the trigger and then called the police and stuck around, in my opinion, is at a minimum evidence to the state of mind that you believed that you were acting in the right and in good faith. You see what I mean? You don't just murder somebody knowing that what you've done is murder and then stick around and call the police because you believe you've committed a crime. If you believe that you've done the right thing, we're talking average person that has grown up believing that the police are heroes and public servants, erroneous as that idea may have become, for a person to stick around after pulling that trigger and call the police and hanging out to tell his story, that at least, in my opinion, should serve as evidence to his state of mind and his belief. And that's important because intent is an element of the crime when you're talking about murder. If you believe that you're in the right, then intent does not exist. And therefore, legally, what you've done is not murder. Right? Police said the shooting was being investigated as road rage homicide, and the confessed shooter has been cooperating with their investigation. Still, no charges have been filed as of Wednesday evening. It wasn't the only shooting along Fort Worth Interstate on Wednesday. Fort Worth police said around 12:30 p.m., a truck driver was on a service road by I-30 West between Altamare Drive and the Ridgely. I wonder if that's a typo. The Ridgely area, when he was shot in the shoulder, sending him to the hospital for his injuries. No suspect has been found in that shooting. In the wake of both of these incidents, some witnesses told NBC5 they're not afraid to drive in the Metroplex, but drivers need to be aware of their surroundings and avoid confrontations. You've got to be careful and just protect yourself and know that this could happen to anyone, Byers said. NBC5 is working to learn the name of the man shot and killed in the suspected road rage shooting, as well as the ID of the alleged shooter, and if any charges will be forthcoming. And hey, you know, as much as I just spoke in defense of the guy that pulled the trigger there, based on his willingness to stick around, Diamond Dave says, lazy journalism. The CAD number for the call to dispatch is public information where they don't have to speculate who called it in. That's Dave, I'm going to say yes, sort of. Yes, the CAD number is public information. This incident happened on the Wednesday morning. If the journalist filed a FOIA request to get not just the CAD number for the call, but to actually get a copy of the call through the CAD number, it's very likely that the journalist has already filed a Freedom of Information Act request, and the government just has not complied with that request yet. The particulars of FOIA requests, so FOIA is a federal law, and then many individual states have their own version of it. They'll call them like Oprah laws or something, open records, stuff like that. And they vary somewhat in how they describe the process to acquire that public information. Because even though it's public information, we no longer have facilities available where for all public information where you can just walk in and look at the public record yourself, right? We should. I used to work with Rod doing title examination, and back then none of that shit was online. You had to go your ass into the courthouse and into the basement and flip through big ass books and find your shit. But that's not necessarily how it's done today. Some of those records rooms no longer even exist. They digitized all of the records in those rooms and then took the physical hard copies and kind of put them in a storage archive. Not all of them, but there are several places that you just can't go look them up anymore. You have to go online and you have to file a FOIA request and you have to wait for the government to reply. And this is a little off topic, but one of the great scandals of the information age, Diamond Dave says, I would think most times if the info is public, a cop on the scene will tell you. You'd be amazed how often the police don't understand what it means for something to be public. And they'll tell you, no, that's just for us, for our internal use. That's not available to you. Now that cop is wrong. He's dead wrong. But just because he's wrong doesn't mean that he won't continue to be wrong, that he won't insist on continuing to be wrong. Rod says public record is supposed to be available. Yes, it is. And the legal argument is that they are available upon request. Right? It should be that I'm just able to walk in and look it up in a public, a library type of situation, a records room. But it is not, that is not the case anymore. And there are some reasons for that kind of make sense. Like, for example, one of the types of public record that is available for you to acquire through a FOIA request is the body cam footage from a police officer. Police officer's body cam footage is public information. That is a public records document. And you can file a request for it. They will bill you to comply with the request. The laws have been written in such a way that the government is allowed to charge you a fee for providing you with the public record. And the legal justification for that is that when you request a public record, time has to be spent by an employee to find the record and then produce a copy, which copy itself also costs money. I've searched public records. At a maximum, it should cost an hour of time, right? Based on the idea that, like, for example, I bill about $150 an hour with a 2-hour minimum for projects projects less than a half day's labor, right? $150 an hour, 2-hour minimum, right? Mechanics tend to bill, like $75 to $100 an hour with a 1-hour minimum. So if it takes them 20 minutes to do the job, you still get billed for an hour. Okay, so you got a government employee making $25, $30 an hour, and they need to go find the record, make the copy, and deliver the copy. That's 10 minutes of work. Maybe 15 if it's a big file, right? So I should owe you an hour of labor plus the cost of ink and paper, assuming we're talking about a paper document. What they do is they will bill thousands of dollars for video records. Right, not all of them, but it's happened. It's happened in a lot of places. They would go out of their way to write these invoices for those public records that are onerous and prohibitive, and make it just ridiculously expensive to acquire those public records. But in all fairness, back to the lazy journalism thing, Diamond Dave. In all fairness, it's highly likely that you've got a journalist here who filed a FOIA request, and let's assume for a moment that the government where they filed that FOIA request, the government agency where they filed that request, is doing everything as to the letter and not charging an unreasonable sum. Maybe they're charging $20 for an hour of labor and 5 or 6 sheets of printer paper with a little bit of ink, right? And you're charging $20 or $30 for the record. But the story happened Wednesday morning. It was probably Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening before the FOIA request was filed. Most places, the FOIA, the state level FOIA equivalent law gives the government 7 business days or more to comply with the request before they're in violation of the law. And it's Friday. So probably there's no shenanigans going on there yet. But that's also not to say that there may not be some shenanigans involved in that acquisition in the future. Rod points out the January 6th video. That's a fantastic example. There were thousands of FOIA requests filed for the January 6th video, and in that case, they didn't even go the route of just trying to make it onerously expensive to release the video. They just refused to release it. And that's another problem with the Freedom of Information Act, is where are the consequences, right? What FBI agent has been fired over the illegal retention of those records? That's insane. But, all right, all right, so last show of the year, Firearms Friday. That means that going into the weekend, It's almost New Year's Eve. I'm sure many of you, actually, shit, you guys are watching this show. You're probably old and boring like me. I'm not going out to no New Year's parties. If I'm still awake at midnight, it's, I'm gonna kiss my wife and go to bed, unless we end up doing a show with somebody. But it is New Year's Eve, so even if you're not gonna get out and party, keep in mind, a lot of people are, and a lot of those people are young, dumb, and about to be full of liquor. So stay safe on the roads out there. Pay attention to what's going on around you. If you encounter a road rage incident where somebody's getting out of their car and screaming and yelling, guys, just drive off. Just drive away. Fuck them. Fuck them. Let them be mad. Drive away. They may even deserve to die by your hand. But you know what? You're good people. You don't deserve to deal with the shitstorm that comes after doing the right thing. If it comes to that. Fuck them. Drive off. Go home. Drink a cup of coffee. Be happy. Don't drive drunk. Don't fry bacon naked. We love you, and we will see you next fucking year. Happy New Year's, guys. And be safe this weekend.